From a tiny suburban garage to a $4 trillion global titan, let's break down exactly how Apple built the ultimate tech empire.
$4.52 trillion. I mean, just think about that number for a second. If Apple were a country, it would literally have one of the largest economies on the entire planet. Today, they're a massive global powerhouse with 166,000 employees. But to really understand this unprecedented level of dominance, we've got to strip away the giant glass headquarters and go back to where the whole shebang started.
Which brings us to Section 1, the garage startup.
Picture this. It's 1976. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak aren't out to change the world. They just want to sell a hand-built computer motherboard. To scrape together the cash, Jobs actually sold his VW bus and Wozniak sold his calculator. They managed to raise just $1,300 to get this thing off the ground, pricing their very first scrappy unit at $666.
But the growth, it was absolute rocket fuel. Just 1 year later, in 1977, they launched the mass-produced Apple II. And thanks to a killer spreadsheet app called VisiCalc, sales completely skyrocketed, literally doubling every 4 months. This hypergrowth culminated in their 1980 IPO, where over 300 employees and investors became instant millionaires.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Let's look at Section 2, the Macintosh and the fall.
As the 1980s personal computing market exploded, Apple faced a massive existential threat. In 1983, they dropped the Apple Lisa. The problem? It had a staggering price tag of $9,995 and notoriously sluggish hardware. Meanwhile, the emerging IBM PC used cheaper components, licensed Microsoft's DOS, and offered wide compatibility. Developers naturally flocked to IBM, and it absolutely crushed the Lisa.
So how do you fight a corporate Goliath like IBM? Well, you change the narrative. In 1984, Apple fired back with the launch of the Macintosh, using one of the most iconic TV commercials in history. Directed by Ridley Scott and aired during the Super Bowl, this ad painted IBM as a dystopian 1984-esque villain, while Apple was positioned as the cool, countercultural hero fighting for freedom and true innovation.
But here's the thing. Marketing buzz doesn't magically fix hardware limits. The early Mac really struggled with insufficient memory. Internal tensions boiled over, and in 1985, Steve Jobs was actually ousted from his own company. And the 90s? Yeah, they were dark times. Apple lost massive ground to cheaper Intel-powered clones running Windows. By the late 90s, they were bleeding money, sitting on unsold inventory, and their global market share had plummeted to roughly 3%.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, the Apple Renaissance.
Staring down bankruptcy in 1997, Apple made a completely desperate pivot. To replace their aging operating system, they acquired Next Software. And the founder of Next, you guessed it, Steve Jobs. Back in the driver's seat as the undisputed leader, Jobs immediately slashed costs, killed off confusing product lines, and set the stage for a massive comeback.
Jobs knew that consumers didn't just want a boring computer. They wanted an upscale lifestyle. His philosophy was clear. Create sleek, minimalist designs that looked way more like modern art than machinery. This exact mindset drove the 1998 launch of the iMac. It was affordable, visually stunning, and it became the best-selling Mac of all time, officially pulling Apple back into profitability.
Next up, Section 4, the iPhone revolution.
Stepping into the 2000s, Apple decided they weren't just a computer company anymore. They ignited a full-blown consumer electronics revolution. The iPod completely changed how we store and listen to music, but the real game-changer hit in 2007 with the original touchscreen iPhone. Listen, this wasn't just a phone. It was a supercomputer for your pocket that permanently altered how human beings communicate.
Let's put this in context. At the time, giants like BlackBerry ruled the market with physical keyboards. Apple totally dislodged them by rewriting user expectations from scratch. They introduced revolutionary multi-touch controls, so now we're swiping, pinching, zooming. They seamlessly blended text and email with a real web browser, and crucially, they paved the way for a massive third-party ecosystem, literally inventing the modern app economy. Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, a trillion-dollar ecosystem.
Apple figured out that the ultimate business model isn't just selling you a device once, it's building a walled garden you never want to leave. Their real superpower is controlling the entire loop. Step 1, custom Apple Silicon processors. Step 2, proprietary operating systems built perfectly for that specific hardware. And Step 3, deeply integrated services like iCloud, the App Store, and Apple Pay. It is the absolute ultimate closed-loop ecosystem.
And the financial results of this strategy? utterly staggering. We're talking $466.82 billion in annual revenue. It's a massive, recurring revenue machine fueled by unparalleled customer loyalty and total ecosystem lock-in.
They aren't just surviving the tech landscape, they are actively dictating it. Apple is the undisputed global leader across massive hardware categories right now, ranking as the top manufacturing company by revenue, the #1 mobile phone vendor, and the top tablet vendor worldwide.
But the beautiful thing about tech is that you can never just stand still. As Apple pushes into wild new paradigms like spatial computing with the Apple Vision Pro, we really have to ask, what is the next frontier for this $4 trillion titan? How do you keep innovating when you're already sitting at the absolute top of the world? I'd love to hear your take, so jump into the comments right now and let me know. If you enjoyed this deep dive explainer, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown. Thanks so much for watching, and stay curious.